You can feel it in the streets on a day.
The album that I was looking forward to the most had to be Childish Gambino's album. And mind you, we didn't have a title. With all the articles and all the interviews he was doing, he said he was going to retire off this album. He ended up doing that iconic, I think in my opinion, Coachella set. He dropped the summer pack, Summertime Magic, and it feels like summer. And then we get to 2020, we fast forward, we get the album, it drops on his website. Every track has a different date on it, it's supposed to be mysterious. And then the website goes down within 12 hours. And then boom, we finally get the full album. And it's called 3/15/20, which obviously that's the date it was supposed to be released on. And this is just a bunch of noises trying to be artsy. A bunch of sounds not going nowhere. Like at some point I felt like, yo, I get the vision. Like, yo, he's repeating the same verse and lyric on one song. He's switching it up the tempo. It's more poppy, it's more hip hop. Then he brings a guitar. And I think he's trying to show like, yo, I can make a good song in all different types of genres. But I'm like, that's cool, but this doesn't make a good album. Like, I was expecting more. I was expecting Red Bull Childish Gambino, World Star Childish Gambino.
Yeah, I wasn't looking forward to that album. I liked World Star Childish Gambino. I liked a couple more Childish Gambino songs. I wouldn't say that was my most disappointing album. I have two as my most disappointing albums. I have Joyner Lucas, ADHD, and I have Jay Electronica in his new album, fuck, that shit is so
The Written Testimony.
Trash. The Written Testimony. Joyner Lucas, like, he built up his whole career as this very lyrical rapper against mumble rap, against the young niggas, against the whole pop wave, and puts out an album with 75% pop music. The only records that were kind of lyrical was ISIS with Logic and Devil's Work. I mean, and he also had that Will Smith song. I like that Will Smith song. The rest of the joints, he tries to be a super pop star, and them shits did not hit. So that was very disappointing. I was expecting bars. He gave me bullshit.
Bro, you know what's so crazy about that? We dropped the video on Joyner Lucas 2 years ago, calling them an industry plant. And obviously we were wrong because Atlanta Records ended up dropping them. And they probably dropped them because they heard this project.
Yeah, this wasn't great. And I think probably the most disappointing, I would say in my life, I would say the most disappointing album I would have ever heard was J. Cole For Your Eyes Only. Not because it was bad, but because of my expectations were this high. And he gave us A Wonderful Close For You. But definitely at number 2 is A Written Testimony by Jay Electronica. This shit was mediocre as a motherfucker. Jay-Z was the best part of this album. He was featured on, I think, 8 out of the 10 tracks, and he bodies Jay Electronica on every track. No, Jay-Z does body most people on tracks. Fine. But you don't put Jay-Z on 8 tracks just for him to show up how bad of a rapper you are. This nigga Jay Electronica, bro. The bars was weak. The production was weak. The mixing was terrible. We waited 10 years. He gave us Exhibit A and Exhibit C, 2 of the greatest hip-hop songs of all time. He gave us Road to Perdition in between, Lecture to Fallon. All this shit is fire. And then he finally dropped his album, which has been delayed multiple times, and he gives us this shit where he gets bodied by Jay-Z and doesn't put his best foot forward. I would say this is by far the most underwhelming thing I've heard this year.
And you know what's wild about this album? Half of the album was produced by Jay Electronica. So that sound that you hate the production is Jay Electronica.
Yeah, the best produced songs was when he had got someone else to do it.
That's he had Alchemist, he had Swizzy, No ID.
Yeah, and Arab music too. So he was definitely the worst part of that album. I'm like, if this is just a Jay-Z album, I'm fucking with it.
You know what's crazy though? Like, I wanted a Jay-Z album. Like, this kind of filled that desire for a Jay-Z album, so I don't hate this album as much. And I wasn't a big Jay Electronica fan. Like, I wasn't think he was gonna save hip-hop. Maybe that was the case back in 2014, but in 2020, when we got Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, new guys like YBN Cordae, JID, I was like, yo, this is a cool project. I fuck with it. This project's probably gonna end up being on my top 10 list. So I was happy with it, but I wasn't like you, where I was waiting for this album. You've been, like you said, you've been a Jay Electronica fan since fucking all those records you named.
Yeah, Exhibit C. I heard Exhibit C. I heard Exhibit C. Number one, I didn't know who Just Blaze was. at that point when Exhibit C came out. Exhibit C came out 9 years ago. I didn't know who Just Blaze was. I'm like, I didn't know what production was. I just knew that this shit was amazing. The lyrics was amazing. He was talking about aliens. I'm like, oh, this whole shit, he's going there. And then if you compare his best work to his new album, disappointing, man. But let us know what you thought was the most underwhelming album to come out this year. And what do you think about Jay Electronica's album, Childish Gambino's album, who's the next album, and Journal Lucas' album? And don't forget to like and subscribe.
3,500 in a pocket that should cover things.